Welcome back to our podcast, eCommerce Insiders, The Journey to Success. Today, we're joined by Terrance Diggs, an entrepreneur, designer, and the visionary behind D17, a sportswear and lifestyle brand that's making waves in the running community. Terrance shares his fascinating transition from a college designer for local musicians and small businesses in Baltimore to the founder of a brand that marries athletics, design, and community. His journey is a testament to the power of combining one's passion with a keen sense of business and marketing. D17 stands out not just for its innovative designs, but also for its commitment to creating opportunities through sports and fostering a sense of community. Join us today as Terrance delves into the evolution of D17, the importance of consumer feedback, and how embracing a mission-driven approach has propelled his brand into the spotlight. This episode is packed with inspiration and insights for anyone looking to make a meaningful impact in their business. Let's get into it. Hey, Terrance, thanks a lot for hopping on the show today. Before we get into e-commerce and your specific business, why don't we give the audience a little background about who you are and kind of how you got started?
Yeah, so my name is Terrance Diggs. For those that don't know me, I'm a Baltimore area based entrepreneur, designer, creative kind of person. Kind of just going back to the origins, I guess, probably started for me in college. Um, I used to be like the designer, in the Baltimore area for a lot of like small businesses and a lot of musicians out here. So that's where I started
Oh,
making
cool.
t-shirts and logos and postcards, stuff like that, just small things because I was a design major in school. And then over time, I kind of figured once I graduated, literally like the day before I walked across the stage in 2016, I was like, I think I'm going to start a business. So I don't know why that came to me on the last day when I was about to move out of my apartment at the time, but for some reason, it just kept going, and being able to kind of take my design skills and put them in kind of both the marketing and like advertising space, because that wasn't really my background coming out. Over time, learning about SEO, building websites, social media, email, just everything you can under the sun to really get my belt together, because I had the creative and technical side. So now I have to get down under the, more business marketing proficiency side. And here we are almost 10 years later, started a business called D17. We make sportswear and athletic wear and kind of like a lifestyle brand mixture within the world. Currently trying to take over the running space and taking chances, designing solutions for athletes and having fun while I'm doing it. So here we are.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's awesome. It's always interesting to hear, we all have like the things we're good at starting out. And maybe this is what we can dive deeper into is like the figure it out aspect
Mhm.
of e-commerce. What was it like? So give us a little bit deeper dive into D17.
Yeah, so D17, we live by the three principles of athletics, design, and community. So really that means is being able to create opportunity through sport. I was an athlete my entire life, really all the way from, elementary to college. I didn't get to play on the teams, which kind of stopped me, just, recruiting and
Hmm.
tuitions and stuff like that and not getting scholarships. So, I still actively played intramural stuff when I was in college and a little bit of club stuff as well. But also, I was always interested in just like sports gear. I was, like I said, I was a design and art major. I always was interested in that kind of sector too, and always kind of played in both roles. And I think always in
Hmm.
my athletic career, I always wanted to kind of mesh those things together. Like I was super inspired like when Allen Iverson was wearing the arm sleeve, and I remember I used to play golf for my high school team, and there's somewhere in the yearbook that I wore an arm sleeve on the golf course. So at the time I thought I was this pioneer, probably looked stupid, but being able to do that. And then once I got to the point of really learning and seeing like a lot of the bigger brands, like an Off-White, Bape, Stussy, like really in those streetwear realms, Supreme,
Hmm.
and being able to kind of see those things. And I was like, man, I really wish I could see what I can do for that and give to that community just of like sneakerheads and designers and a lot of those niche, subcultures that I kind of grew up with. And
Yep.
then over time, I got back into running and then being able to be like, hey, how can I tie that now into the business and taking all those passions that I've had, and they've all grown under D17. And now I'm obsessed with sports that I didn't even really was a fan of. And that's kind of where, our kind of ethos comes in with bringing awareness to sports and how to get involved in them and how to participate, as well as being able to kind of bring shifts in the industry, especially like for running, especially for a lot of Black owned businesses, being able to kind of be that figure in forefront. But a lot of people don't really see that. Like I mentioned before, I kind of play both sides. Like, yeah,
Hmm.
I'll do the designs for the shirts, but I'm also in the back end trying to figure out, what I can get out of SEMrush or my Google Search Console and stuff like that. Like, so a
Yep.
lot of times in going to my full-time entrepreneur journey, I've kind of picked that up from every, company that I've been with before, being I was just the graphic designer, but I was just like, hey, what is this Google Analytics thing, and how can I kind of
Right.
attest that? And I'm a type of guy that I'm obsessed with data. And sometimes I'll even do designs based on the data and what I'm seeing on top of the trends, and, how that can really impact the business and kind of push us forward. And like I said, here we are. And I think still that inspiration is still seen today. And I'm glad it's able to show. And D17 is what came out of it. It's like my little brain birth child.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, I can relate. I mean, I think when you have a passion for something to your core,
Hmm.
it truly is like this. It's like an extension of yourself as you start to see it come to fruition. It's the
Yeah,
same
for
thing with my
sure.
company. Is like the passion behind it, the figure it out mentality, the grind it out. Interesting in my experience in working with the creative visionary types, to pair that with someone who also has a passion for analytics and data is a very interesting hybrid, in that I usually don't find that when we work with videographers and producers and different things for the creative side of the business. Generally, it's really that kind of big thinking, open minded, less about the data and numbers. So
Hmm.
it's interesting to hear you say that, like, that is a side passion of yours. How has that helped you to evolve on the business side of D17?
I think it definitely helped, at least for one, really kind of identify, like we were talking about before the call, how can I turn it from, hey, I'm making t-shirts to I'm now presenting a brand.
Mm,
And I kind of, I feel like I'm going to tell this mini snippet until I'm done with my journey. But when I
mhm,
originally started the business, I kind of wanted to be this, kind of high end clothing brand thing. And eventually, kind of looking back, I had one of my friends, she wore one of my products to the gym, and she texted me and she was like, I love this gym shirt. Like, it's so nice. And I was like, "Oh, that's not what it's for." Like, so, that's where you kind of, in my mind, I'm doing,
right.
market research and getting consumer feedback and stuff like that. And like I said, I grew up my whole life being an athlete. So I think people
Mhm,
automatically assume that it was an athletic brand. So that's when I kind of started to look at the numbers and being like, hey, when I started posting my content, looking back in our social media software, being like, I'm getting more engagement on stuff that's necessarily about athletics, or if I'm sponsoring a soccer team, or if I'm attending an event. We made T-shirts for one of our teams, District Reign, when they played in a league cup championship. More people were
mhm,
interested in that than me trying to push like the high end kind of stuff. And then once I was kind of looking at that, I'm like, okay, let's go down this athletics thing. And then it's like, okay, which part of it do I want to try to be this type of challenger brand? Do I want to kind of just flow my own way? Could I do that in a market like basketball? I don't think so. Could I do it in football? Probably not. So I got into running. I don't know how in my mind I got into it, but being able to look at that and kind of understand like, okay, what type of content and landing pages, blogs, video do I need to create in order to one, get my message out, and two, get that authority, because it's already hard to find brands like mine. And how can I step out and kind of differentiate myself with my name, which is literally just a letter and a number. And then
Mm-hmm.
once you kind of go into Google and you're like, okay, well, when the heck did Honda get a D17 engine from 1997 that people are still vintagely restoring for years? I can,
No way.
I've been trying to get through that. And then it's like, you have to go back and look and see the numbers and like, okay, what are people searching when they're looking for me? What are things that I can do kind of from a brand side? There's also a
Yep.
D17 tractor. I've even reached out to the company to like, hey, can we do a collaboration photo shoot on one of your tractors that might
No
necessarily help
way.
both of our rankings or something? But I don't know what I would make, but
Right.
being able to kind of play those things, and marketing is consistently changing, and
Yes.
different platforms to sell on. It's like, what can I see from the numbers if I'm looking at engagement or if I'm looking at just impressions? What am I trying to get? I'm a big conversions guy. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
what avenues do I think will be the best ones, both for budget and just from a brand standpoint, to get those conversions? And for me, it starts with just making the site simple, getting our site speed together and mobile optimize, being able to be translated into other languages. If I want to try to get that global aspect, and then also making it easy to find, because a lot of people instantly would just go d17.com. It's not necessarily
Right.
going to ping me, but how many, domains can I grab and where can I put them? But not having too many that it's confusing, and then kind of
Yep.
just honing it all back in together. So it's not this big, mishigosh mess. It's actually together
Right.
and concise, easy to find, easy to purchase, and easy to get in your closet within, 1 to 2 weeks.
Yep. It's awesome. I mean, it's so you're
Sorry, that was
you're
a lot.
you're just no, you're just as technical as I am. So it's really interesting. A lot of times in speaking to different founders and brand owners, they're really good and honed in on one aspect of what they do. Whether that's like, hey, we have one client that's really good at creating his own content, can't run ads to save his life. That's why he brings us on. It's really interesting to hear someone who has started a brand, bootstrapped it, and has the full understanding of site speed, search console, analytics. It's a conversation I've found rarely had. Um, and people focus on like, hey, this perfect hat material, um, but not understanding if those hats are going to sell because you're not looking at the data, which tells you one thing or another. It's refreshing to hear all that information.
Yeah, I would definitely give a lot of props to my mom, who did a lot of years in the advertising space. So she kind of was like
Awesome.
my early mentor. Like I remember
Mm-hmm.
going, to all the offices, and she's still be doing pitch decks, and I'm in the back like on Photoshop, CS1. I think it used to be called like Corel Painter or something. I just like remember
Yeah.
doing all that. And I remember one thing she told me when it comes to the business side, or at least she was a media buyer, and it was
Okay.
always being able to be like, you have to be able to understand kind of everything. If I want to be
Yep.
not necessarily the head dog, but like if I want to
Right.
be able to produce the best videos, I need to understand, the encoding. I need to understand color grading. I need to understand storytelling. And then on the other side, how can we optimize it for YouTube, for social, for
Right.
Instagram, for Twitter, for ads?
Yep.
You have to be able to kind of understand that. And I feel like that's always helped me just kind of one, figure out new stuff, and two,
Mm-hmm.
be able to kind of understand how I want to create. It's like, oh, reels and, portrait video is different. How can we kind of change that? And then my creative juice gets flowing, and then I'm kind of working on the technical side of it as well. So it's definitely helped, being that, our team is very small, that I can jump in those
Mm-hmm.
different chairs, and, someone can come to me and be like, hey, we have this creative pitch. I can say, okay, well, let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. or even if it's B, they want to talk about, being able to do collaborations. Like I mentioned with these bigger brands, they want to know what's going on and how their stuff is going to work and how it's presented. And I'm able to do that and then kind of just
Yep.
going from there. So,
That's how I got my start, was media buying as well, back 15 years ago. It really comes down to like think the forward thinking of cause and effect. I think that's a really important part of all of this, is like, what's going to happen if we integrate this? What's going to happen if we test this market or this platform? Um, for D17 Clothing, what have been some of the main marketing initiatives that have worked for you guys, from 2016 to now? Like, what were the different platforms or tests that you did in order to get to where you guys are now?
yeah. So I think really it took a lot, like I mentioned before, consumer feedback to really
Mhm.
kind of understand who that person was. Because I feel like a lot of times, and this is a little bit of a gem that I learned, like, I feel like sometimes when you're going into a business, it's like, yeah, I have to find my audience and I have to niche down. But then it's also like, yeah, niches exist. It's just in my mind, niches exist, but they can be so unique or they can be
Mhm.
so broad that it's like, what are the three things that I can kind of piece together of a person and how can I develop that into what a consumer looks like? Because like I said, athletics, design, and community, we have a lot of people that like sports in our brand. We have people that like the design lifestyle part of the brand. And then there's a third part that people really enjoy, a lot of our community activism, whether it's working with Howard County Recreation and Parks and being able to, help kids pay for summer camp. It could be working with
Yeah.
nonprofits like the Third out here, which is a women of color business hub. A lot of people like seeing that as well.
Yep.
And then being able to be like, okay, let's look back and let's now create product for those people and what they need. If it's our runners, they might not necessarily be looking for more socks. They may just want, shirts and hats, which is cool and easy
Mhm.
to produce. The lifestyle people, they kind of play in between the athletic and the design, and they just want lifestyle hoodies, which we're about to release. We brought back one of our like fan favorites from 4 years ago, and
No
kind of
way.
revamped it. And before I even started the production process, I asked on Instagram, like, hey, do you guys want colors back? Do you guys want something new? They're like, nope, keep it the same. So I'm like, okay, great. Now I
Very
know how
cool.
to go to my producer and say, hey, let's run this with the same, production to the tech pack that we did before and not touch it. And then also kind of the back end of the running stuff is I've gotten real big into just like my SEO stuff and understanding what people are looking for to find me. Because
Mhm.
like I tell people, we're young, but kind of we're in like a weird toddler adolescence age that
Yep.
it's how can we now use like blogs in our social media to kind of target those people that, yeah, we're creating opportunity through sport. And let's say it's with running. How are we able to get that information to them in a way that's accessible? And they're able to tie that back and think about us when it comes to making another purchase. Where are they going? Are they doing it mainly on the
Yep.
website? Are they doing it via the shop app? Are they going on Instagram? And I know a lot of people are big on like the TikTok shop now. And I'm kind of like,
Yep.
do I want to do that? Is it the right people I want to target? Are people going to get mad that are my loyal, consumers? We've been getting into email. So it's like,
Mhm.
so many things. It's like, let's send the email before we do this. Let's do this before we do that. So now everything is kind of tactical and not just like, all right, schedule and go and just wait for the Shopify, dings to come in.
Right.
But really
Which are
building
some
not
of the best sounds ever, though.
they are the best. I did get the little ticker thing that like it like
Did you?
flips every time you get a sale.
Yep.
But yeah, really understanding those audience segments, those consumer segments, and getting that feedback and then turning that into products that people want. And then going from there, that's really been what I thought has worked, at least in the last, I can give it like 2 years, has really been really successful for us.
It's so funny you talk about the niching down. We niched down, I don't know, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And to your point, like they can be super specific or they can be super broad. And we only work with e-com stores. So like
Mhm.
technically that would be a niching down. But as the time has grown, well, there's apparel, there is luxury items, there's all like there's so many subsections that really we didn't niche down. We just work with a certain type of business. But
Mhm.
it's interesting how you've applied that to your target audience. And before the call, we were talking, you had mentioned the mission. Um, have you really honed on that? I know you have the three pillars of audience. Have you created like that company mission? That is that North Star for you to kind of stay on track?
Yeah, so it's not really like a public one, but
No, that's fine.
it's more or less like still always creating opportunity through sport in ways that you feel like are going to change the world. That's usually what I kind of live by. And it's actually, I
Yep.
did a pair of collaboration socks with my friend Saba of a business called Rendered in Washington, D.C. Because
Mm-hmm.
I've always, like being in sports is funny because I'm watching the Giannis Antetokounmpo documentary. Like I've always remembered how these products have changed the world. Whether it was Michael Jordan coming out with the Jordan 1, D Brown pumping up his shoes before the dunk, being able to see Tiger in the Sunday red. Like it's crazy how these
Yep.
garments can really influence so much things and represent a people or represent a person. Or one of the greatest compliments I get sometimes is somebody will wear one of my shirts from years ago and they're like, man, this is my favorite thing, like I wear this every time, it's so worn, the graphic is hanging off, like they've kicked it to the dirt and it's still holding up and looks great. And being able to do that as well with our kind of opportunity through sports side. It's like I've put on so many people to the sport of running in under a year. Like we started our run club here in Maryland. We went from 0 to 159 runners in a year, and then being able to kind of put them on to like, hey, this is the type of gear that we're making. It's not necessarily going to be some of the same stuff you're seeing. Like I like really crazy graphics. Like I like
Mm-hmm.
really loud things. I like really weird color schemes. And it's like, I don't think you would see that in other places, but I'm also doing it in a way that is bringing awareness to, runners of color, really runners of any experience level. This is not just a competitive thing, but we do compete though. Like we do
Mm-hmm.
actually go out and compete and participate in the major races, and I'm out there too running. So that's the
Nice.
fun part. But being able to kind of bring that, and I remember, and I'll kind of keep it short. I remember we went to a retailer event. They just had an anniversary event, and me and two of my teammates, we had our matching like D17 running jackets. But the thing about it is these colors are like, obviously we have red and black, but we have purple, light blue, crimson, all these different things with this huge 3M that's like extremely massive on it in the front and the back. And this lady comes up to me and she goes, excuse me, what is D17 running? Like, I feel like she was a little bit offended by how loud this piece, I'm telling you, the back of it is huge with 3M. And really the kind of process behind it was, um, with Ahmaud Aubrey, rest in peace, he passed away running in his neighborhood, and a lot of things with runners of colors, visibility on their garments. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
let's exaggerate it to the freaking, this looks like a freaking traffic cone. And,
Yeah.
a lot of people, they don't see that part, but once they kind of get it, they're like, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't understand that.
Right.
And then when I'm talking to prospective runners, I'm like, hey, you know, I'm going to back you with the information that, yeah, if you're going to start running, it's not going to be just pull up in a pair of Air Forces and start running. Then you complain your ankles
Right.
hurt. Like, no, we have partners that'll help you get the correct equipment. We'll take you through what it's like on the competitive side, because that's kind of the community aspect as well. Like people, they want to wear the gear. We participate in the Baltimore Run Fest annually, and they want to understand like, hey, this is going to be my goal for the end of the year. This is my fitness goal. I'm going to run this 5K. I'm going to run this 10K. And my friend John, he ran the full marathon last year in the rain. That was his thing. He stuck to it. He did it. He had his D17 running hat from like 4 years ago. He's like, yeah, nope, this is my hat. This is my go-to. And I was like, all right, man. I did the 10K with my other friend, John. And, we watched him truck through the streets of Baltimore in the rain with that hat. All he had was a tank top, shorts, and that hat on. And I was like, he felt some type of power and resilience in it, all the hours and miles that he's put in, it, touches more things in my process in the business that, he selected that to go and compete in
Right.
that race. And I'm hoping to give that kind of feeling and awareness to other athletes and hopefully across more sports. Right now, I'm just obsessed with soccer and running and for some reason
Yeah.
pickleball right now, but it's
Uh,
just ever changing. And I feel like it's so malleable and, it
yeah.
has like a defined thing, but it doesn't. And then it kind of all will piece together one day. And then, I'll be a cool designer guy. I'll go hang with Pharrell and stuff. And, I'll just, you know, catch me on Vogue or something.
That's awesome. Hey, everyone needs their goals, right? The pie in the
Yeah.
sky. We all have one. That's awesome. I mean, it really sounds, and I commend you for the community side of it. It's really awesome to hear somebody with the passion around the community around them, not just about the selling of a product or selling of the best product they can make.
Yeah.
In integrating that.
It's pretty, that's always been, ever since I was in high school, we were always taught, like, this is like, you're going to be knowing these people for your entire life. And a lot of my friends now still, going into my 30s, I've known these guys since I was 15, playing sports with them. Now they're getting married and buying houses and having kids. And then now when I see the kids out here, I always, there's always that one kid on the blacktop. And I'm like, you can do other things, man. Like, you can have this goal, but you can try this stuff and try this. Cause when I was playing lacrosse, that was like where I had the number 17. I didn't start that until my junior year of
Mhm.
high school. I didn't even know about the
Mhm.
sport of lacrosse. That turned out being one of the better sports that I was in. I didn't start it until I was like 16. So I wish I kind of had that awareness earlier on. Even with the running, I wish I ran track freshman year, but I really didn't really know what I was doing. And I wish I kind of had that awareness early on. And I wish I had the cool stuff to wear with it. And even with my high school and even my college, like the community aspect, I know at Taos University, probably 2 years ago, I went up there and I gave out free shirts to all the students at the homecoming. I took 300
Wow.
shirts and I just was like, I was broke just like y'all. I want cool stuff. We're not, no disrespect to the family. We're not a University of Maryland. I'm not a Terp. I'm not a Duke Blue Devil. I don't have those we don't have those licensings. We get whatever is made. And so I said, you know what? I'm going
Yeah.
to make something dope. I'm going to go up there. I'm going to give them out to the kids. And that was like the best thing I ever did. Like I met so many people and made so many connections. And, they're like, who made this? It's for free. I'm like, yeah, just show me your student ID. And it's for you. I was a student just like you guys. I was up here doing stupid crap like y'all. I want a cool shirt to wear. And even 2 years later, I'm still getting, pictures and videos and people being like, when you coming back, man? When you coming back? And I'm like, I want y'all to know I'm here and I support y'all and I understand what you're going through. I understand from a student, from an athlete, from, working for the school, then being able to have those pieces and items to commemorate is just what I live for. And like I said, it was all free. I didn't care for the money. I was just like, I want y'all to have this
Yeah.
and you don't have to go to the dining hall tonight. You can go to Chipotle, keep your $20.
Yeah.
Like it's cool.
That's awesome. It's really the community aspect super important. I commend you for that. I mean, I remember college, right? You're broke, you're trying to figure it out. The whole what's next thing, and like any free swag is like the best day ever.
Oh man, the amount of people that they're like, this is like the best free shit I ever freaking got. I'm like, yeah, no, like I still have all my free freaking shirts from college and
Yeah.
being able to like see that light on their eyes. And plus we were able to, it was for the football game and it's crazy. Like, the best form of marketing in my mind is word of mouth. And I remember it was
Mhm.
during the football game. And I remember after the game, I got like 15 DMs from the football players. They're like, yo, are you the guy that made these shirts for the football team? I was like, yeah, weren't you playing a game this entire time? Like, yo, we need some, man. I'm like, I don't know who was talking where within the,
Right.
the realm. And it's just crazy how quick the message moves. And then that's, at the business side, it's like, okay, how can we then up this, also make it more accessible? How can we work with the store maybe, or maybe a student organization? And even now
Yeah.
we're planning for this year. Like I want Towson kids to do it. I want that, we can work NIL things. We can, build those kind of avenues for the athletes for when they get those other opportunities. I might be the first one. So it's kind of building that as well. And it also helps me on the
Hmm.
brand side. I'm teaching them how to be
Right.
influencers. I'm also doing grassroots marketing. I'm also making sure I'm getting the content correct, working with the correct partners and manufacturers. And, I'll design it myself, just makes it easy. And
Right.
boom, brand. It
That's
kind of just
awesome.
all comes together. So that's
Yeah.
the fun part. I just like to have fun. I'd ride around with a truck with free shirts if I could, just throwing them like,
Throwing them out the
like a
back.
presidential rally, just like,
Yeah.
you get a shirt, you get a shirt, everybody gets shirts. I wish I could do that, but it's not conducive to the budget. But you never
Right.
know, maybe one
Definitely
day.
still yeah, someday. And it's interesting you just brought up the manufacturing side of things. So being in apparel, if you don't mind sharing some insights for our audience on the manufacturing, I find that in my conversations with brand owners, um, that is always the biggest question mark. Because like we were
Yeah,
talking about earlier, like somebody's always good at something, right? So you're phenomenal at design and you have this great analytics side of things. I'm really good at creating content, building relationships. I'm terrible with the finance side, right? Just
yeah.
I don't do it.
Hmm.
um, and because manufacturing is such a question mark of like, where do you get it done? Who does it? What's your MOQ? How much money should I allocate? What was that whole process like for you so that you could be able to give away 300 shirts and know you also still had enough to keep the business going? What did that process look like for you?
Yeah, I feel like anybody that's in the shirt or even apparel game, it's truly a lot of trial and error. And it's
Mhm.
truly a lot of like research. And it's truly a lot of what I try to tell people now. You have to look at it, what's tailored for you where you are today, because
Mhm.
you could go to like the top dogs, but they're not gonna take me. The MOQs are like 10,000 units per size. We're not
Mm.
even talking about the full run. We're talking about, if you want to do a full t-shirt run, from whatever you feel your sizes are, let's say it's small to extra large, at 10,000 a piece, that's a lot of money, and if you're
Yeah.
not able to do that, you're going to put yourself in a rut. And then my thing always, especially what I've learned, is start local and then start kind of like breaking out. Like I remember I was working with a local screen printer here in Maryland. I think their MOQ probably was 20 at the time. I know they've changed. The MOQs have changed crazy. I'm still learning that now. But when I
Mhm.
first started, it was like 25. You could get 25 for about $10 a pop. Like, okay, cool. Maybe I'll mix
Yep.
and match a couple colors here and there. Usually they're pretty nice about it, as long as the graphic is the same. Um, you can kind of figure that out. Like, okay, if I have $1,000, I can do, this much on shirts. Usually I like to do things in three pieces: a main piece, kind of an accessory, and then like a side item, which is either like a bottle or a hat or something, just for those that they don't want a shirt, they just want cool stuff, for their everyday
Yep.
life. And
Makes
then
sense.
eventually, as time grew on, especially being in the running space, performance fabric, it comes at a cost, and then being able to get somebody to do it in the right way, because eventually it's like, okay, now I'm screen printing on shirts. I think I want to get into embroidery. Okay. Well, now I want to get into finishing services. I want tags. I want, custom packaging. I want, there's so many other levels to it that kind of build the brand too. It really just being able to understand, like starting local, like, okay, there might be a print shop that's down the street, like, hey, they might even do 10 for you, or just a sample, just so you can kind of get the content made and then kind of understand what people are gravitating towards. but always in the manufacturing too. Like if you're going to work with a bigger person, like let's say you're starting to get to like where I'm at now, we're in like the 50 to 150 MOQ per product. So, our full collection is probably between 300 to 500 pieces. Being able
Mm,
to get your tech packs, like you have to understand how that kind of goes through, because the manufacturer's only going to do what you tell them to do. And then being able to understand, like, okay, like literally, you have to, like the office, like Steve Carell said, tell it to me like I'm five. Like, from the neckline, the graphic has to be put in centimeters too, just in case. I like to do both. Like, you know, 5 centimeters down from the neckline, 17 centimeters wide, Pantone, whatever you want, being able to kind of understand those things, because a lot of the bigger manufacturers, they're not going to say, well, I want a red screen print on a black shirt. They're going to be like, okay, we have 10,000 red swatches. Like you have to, understand which ones, and being able to do that. Like you can go to your local library and check out a Pantone book and literally just write them down. Like, okay, these are the ones that I think are resonating with me. And even I still refer to them now. Like, okay, these are the ones that I like to stick in. Here's the color palettes I'd like to work with. And then being able to go from there, and then understanding, and I'll kind of tie it all back, understanding what's going to work for your business and what's not. Like, yeah, everybody makes t-shirts. Yeah, everybody makes hoodies. Yeah, everybody makes hats. But it's also like, what's going to be your, difference maker? Is it going to be the packaging? Even, I was getting a lot of sales early on because people just wanted the bag. They just wanted the bag that it came
mm,
in. Because around COVID, I wasn't able to ship, so I was doing local drop offs, and we ended up making reusable tote bags. Because out here, they made the law that, you can get reusable tote bags and stuff like that. So I was like, what if I just make some and I include it with every order? And as I'm riding around, doing these drop offs, and they had clips on them and everything. So I'm like, oh, your order's
hmm
outside. And I just place it down. And they're like, well, I just wanted the bag. How can I get more bags? Then it's like we turned into making bags. And then it's, how can we make the bags? You have to think about sustainability. You can't just burn up a
hmm
whole bunch of bags. You have to be able to understand we can't mess the planet up, because fashion's very wasteful. And then how can we not
Yeah.
make it so wasteful? And now we're at the point that I've been working with a lot of like upcycling artists to take some of the
Mm.
old stuff to turn it. Like I have a guy, he's currently working to take some of her old windbreakers and turning them into running hats. So we're able
Oh
to kind
wow.
of, do that and collaborate with artists, and like, hey, D17 and artists have put together to make an upcycled collection. You can purchase it here, or being able to sell it in different avenues or donate it somewhere. So the life cycle can continue to go on, because I really don't want to waste anything, because when you're small you can't waste stuff, because then stuff's
Right.
sitting, and then it's like, do I have too much inventory? Do I not have enough?
Yep.
Do I pre-order? It's going to take too long. Am I pissing people
Yep.
off? I have to retain. It's like you kind of have to tailor what fits for you at the moment. And I'm a guy who likes to break the rules. So you got to do something crazy. Like, maybe get 100 shirts, throw them outside. I don't know. go to a high school basketball game. Just be like, yo, I
Just
got a
give
bunch
them
of
out.
shirts. I did it. I just had a bunch of shirts when I was in high school. I was just like, made them on custom ink. I had like 50 of them. And I was just like, who wants shirts? Just throwing them out. And then boom, you're in the yearbook. And you're like, remember when I did that shirt when I was in high school with, Corel Painter and CS3, and then kind of just goes from there. But, got to keep the budget in mind
It's
too, because you still got to advertise and keep your website up and
right.
all that stuff. So
With the integrations, like the collaborations and the upcycle, are those intentional? Or are you finding as business continues to evolve that it more becomes that things kind of appear almost as if out of thin air and opportunities present themselves? Or have you been going into it like this amount of years in business now, things start to break down? How can I repurpose these for longevity in the environment? Are you intentional with it, or are these things just happening kind of naturally?
I think it's kind of a mix of both. I feel like sometimes you kind of come across it, and then the purpose of doing it becomes intentional. Like when I met the upcycle guy, I had thought about, upcycling old product, but I didn't know how to do it. Like
Hmm.
sustainability and being able to kind of do that side. I'm not versed in that, but being able to be like, I want to do this. And then I intentionally went and looked for artists that are like in Maryland or the East Coast that are already doing it. And then being able to collaborate with them, like, hey, we're kind of, sharing audiences. You get to tap in some of my audience because you're already making lines of, you know, making hats out of like old NHL jerseys and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, we're kind of working on this together.
Hmm.
I feel like every move that I've made has been intentional, but it came with like I found out about it like when
Like a
we got
natural
into.
progression.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I just posted it on LinkedIn today. Like the craziest thing about business is there's so many opportunities and it just turns into something new. Cause like I said, when I
Yep.
first started, I didn't even make athletic stuff for probably 2 to 3 years until I was like, okay, well, maybe we should go this route. Or even like when I started the running, people called me crazy. I remember I was walking around being like, hey, join my run club. People are like, who the heck wants to run? Like that sounds
Yeah.
stupid. And then now it's like everywhere, everybody's running now. So I'm like, I'm kind of like seeing the trends of stuff and I'm kind of understanding where it comes from. And even like we talked about earlier with audiences, a lot of our audiences between like 18 to 35, a lot of them are
Okay.
college age or young adults or it's the things they do after work. They run, they play pickleball, they go to the bar, they watch
Yep.
sports, stuff like that. So it's like, how can we kind of jump into there? And which is how I got into the pickleball thing because I didn't even know about it. It's pretty big now. And I
It's
just
huge.
played it
We have a
one
couple
time.
clients in this in the space.
Yeah. So
Yep.
I had learned about it and I was like, I played it one time and I was like, this is pretty cool. And I found out like a whole bunch of my friends were already playing. And I was like, I could probably make some apparel around it, but I can make a t-shirt about anything. How can we kind of take it to the
Right.
next level? And that's when I connected with my friend Mark. He makes pickleball. He has a pickleball paddle company. So I was like, let's collaborate. And he is from, the East Coast as well. So I'm like, hey, let's kind of do this thing together. Your business is making paddle. My stuff is making cool stuff. Let's make a cool
Yep.
paddle and then be able from the content, like, okay, you're a founder. I'm a founder. Let's make the content about two founders playing pickleball, when they're 28, and then being able to be like, yeah, then he's from, New York. I'm from down here. I'm like, hey, I'll just hop on a train with a couple of my friends. Let's just ride up there with a videographer and shoot the video. And then people can kind of see the people aspect. So it's intentional on being able to work with certain partners and clients and then being able to understand like, hey, this is the product that we're putting out. And it's like intentionally for you because I'm
Yep.
also living these experiences that you are. I'm
Right.
also running the races because that's what I tell people all the time. And that's kind of our D17's like low key thing. Like this is not for the lookbook. I'm really out here
Hmm.
doing these things. Like I'm really training for a half marathon. I'm really training for a full marathon. My teammates are also really training for these things. Like this is not just for in and out with the lookbook. Like I'm really out there. I'm really
Yeah.
learning. I'm understanding where I'm sweating in the shirt. I'm understanding what other people are wearing. I'm understanding what they're looking for in a product. I'm understanding which of the bigger businesses I think we could align with because everybody could go straight to the top dog. But it's like, maybe I could work with this really emerging sneaker brand. They don't have no,
Right.
they might be small. Maybe we can work together and really kind of tap into those grassroots things. Maybe I can show off my creative side on the footwear side. And it's like, it can turn into something a lot bigger. And I kind of think of it like the Air movie with Nike. Like I'm
Hmm.
the Sonny Vaccaro that saw Michael Jordan, and I'm like, let's get that guy.
Yep.
Let's build around this and watch it turn into this versus just going to get Sam Bowie and then we saw that
You know how
happen.
that
But
story ends.
it's always crazy, and I feel like that's my biggest skill is I just have a crazy eye for opportunity and things and like
Hmm.
not to toot my own horn, but I got the Super Bowl first song correct 2 years in a row now, Rihanna and Usher. So I was like, I know, like I have this like weird sense of understanding like what's to come and like what's kind of
Yep.
sticking in my brain. Like, do I want to jump into TikTok? Who can I do that? I did that one time. I saw my friend Yami. She was really starting on TikTok, kind of was getting a following. I sent her a hoodie. It turned into 26 million views overnight, you know, and then I was like, huh, and sometimes I'm not even surprised by it. I'm like, I kind of knew something was gonna click,
Yep.
but it just happened to click for her, and she just happened to be wearing my hoodie when it happened. So
Wow.
it's kind of like small stuff like that. I was on Complex
Yep.
Magazine. I was just like, this seems interesting. I'm just gonna send a box to the office and see what happens. They made a whole show called The Mail Room. They took my box and put it on the show. So it's like you just
No
never
way.
know what could happen. Sometimes the
Right.
unintentional is intentional, but sometimes you take a risk and it just somehow it works. Like you
Works
got
out.
it's that little 1% luck, and I guess I'm a little bit of a lucky guy a couple years, so I'll
Yeah.
take it.
Well, you never know if you don't try. I think that's where
Yeah,
just taking the risks, as business owners and families, you have to support and all these different things. The risk can seem very, fearful. It's scary to do certain things, but also the reward. And I think that's where going back to the very beginning, we're talking about the passion of being, that brainchild or whatever. Is it truly believe to your core, like I'm gonna figure this out? Taking those risks become a little bit easier to do.
yeah, and I think kind of rolling off of that, and I'll keep it short before I go on a ramble brigade. Like I think at the core, one of my biggest skills has always been connecting with people. Like I really just
Mhm.
love. Like I'm kind of like a quiet, like not super reserved guy, but if you met me, you'd be like, that guy, he don't say much. But if you sit down with me like one on one, we can sit there and talk about so many things and
Yep.
understand and find mutual experiences or common interests. And it's like I kind of do that through the clothing, like being able to connect
Mhm.
with people and like I said, the businesses that we work with, like we just worked with the Bowie Bay Sox last year, which is a minor league team under the Baltimore Orioles. They did a community day. And, you know, I didn't even come to the event with all that advertising and everything. I just came with my friends and a bunch of hats. That was it. I made a cool custom
Mhm.
hat. It was a great product. But I made a bunch of hats and I gave out 200 free tickets. Like I was like, I don't need,
Wow.
I told her, I was like, I don't even, I just want people to be there and experience it and see this and understand it. And I'm just sitting at the table talking to people. Like I'm literally just handing out hats to adults and kids and, youth athletes, just talking like, this is just who I am. This is the business I'm running.
Mhm.
Here's the things that I'm trying to do. By the way, my name is Terrance. Like I'm the guy that's designing it. I'm the guy that's doing this and that. If you reach out on certain, platforms, I'm the one you're talking to. Let's connect. Let's
Yep.
do something. Here's my phone number. Let's go get coffee or something. What can we do to do it? And literally this weekend, I'm going to Charlotte, North Carolina to meet with a retailer. They said some stuff online. I said, I'm going to come and I'm going to shake your hand and I want to talk to you, face to face, even if nothing transpires from it. To understand this guy drove all the way from Maryland just to shake my hand and say, I want to partner with you. Let's make a difference in this space together. But I don't want to do it over email. I want to, if you're in
Yep.
reach, I want to be able to make that connection and make it long lasting, and whatever I can do to bring you value, um, is what I can do for you. And just kind of keeps going from there. I just pay it forward and I don't look for the return because,
Yep.
I'm I'm fulfilled in my own life. I just want others to feel that same way too. Sorry if that sounded
It's
like
amazing.
emotional and savvy, but
No, no, I think there's so much value in that. We were talking in the beginning of this. The reason for this podcast is the value aspect. If others can learn through our experiences, that's it. Like that's the great part about it. And content being produced and these different things and learning through others. I think there's just a lack of it now as everyone sign up for my $1,000 course on how to build an apparel brand or a marketing. And you're just like, well, I can't, just help people figure it out. And I think that's like
Yeah,
the key to happiness in life.
that's how it happens. A lot of, like I
Yep.
said, a lot of stuff I get into is just like bumping into somebody. Like
Yep.
literally, it's either from my other jobs, like even if it's just like, hey, what can I do for you? It doesn't even have to be clothing or design related. It's just like, how can I help you do something? Like one of my friends, she's a photographer, like, and when we were working together, her name's Janelle, absolutely immaculate photographer. Even when she was going on set to shoot, I was like, I'm here to learn from you. I'll just set
Yep.
up the lights. Like, I just want to be able to understand because I'm doing social media and you're creating the content that I'm posting. I want to see what your process is like and how you're doing it. She's a great friend and colleague. And like I said, I would go with her everywhere just to set the lights up or just hook the
Yep.
microphones up, just being able to kind of see that. And I feel like that kind of helps me when I was being a social media manager. Like, I have to be able to work with these people and I have to work with ecom. I have to work with merchandising. I have to understand how I can elevate them because we're all in the same common goal. And even when I was working in
Right.
ASICS, like we got to sell shirts and sneakers. So I need to understand how
Yep.
your job is working to understand, you know, what it's like when you're getting the merchandise. How can we make sure we're getting our UTM, tracking links correct? How can I make sure the content
Hmm.
is presenting it well to turn into sales? Because at the end of the day, I got to sell something. And the more organic and easy I can do it is just kind of just goes from there. And like I said, here I am almost 10 years later. I make some cool stuff, and I feel like every year it just keeps getting cooler. And I'm like, man, I got so many things. Like even the thing for working with retailers and partners, and now I get to work with my favorite baseball organization in the freaking world. And I'm like, it's only up from here, and I'm just glad I'd be able to make the progress and just going from there.
That's amazing. And so, as we're wrapping up the episode, what are some of the things that you're looking forward to for the future for D17 Clothing?
Oh, geez, definitely working with like a bigger like footwear partner. I really want
Hmm.
to be able to kind of stick with the brand. We don't make footwear, so I'd love to work with like On Running or a Hoka or Asics or Under Armour, even a Nike or whoever fits
Yep.
our mantras the best to kind of be like, hey, I've seen what they've done with Off White and Pharrell and Bape and Stussy and all these brands. It's like, hey, let's really take that activation a step forward. Whether that is like an event about running or like helping kids or something like that. I definitely want to get more into that, my pickleball space and everything.
Hmm.
Being able to kind of go across the country and meeting people and working with those retailers and, understanding their needs and what I can do as a brand to kind of elevate their, stores and brick and mortar spaces. Or if they're doing ecom too, like how can we understand with the content and what we're doing to make those sales. And then kind of the last thing is having more fun than I am now. Like I'm fairly new to my entrepreneurial full-time journey. It always was like my, thing I do when I get home. And now,
Yep.
for those that have been affected by, layoffs and stuff like that, I kind of took that mentality to like, let me really lock in on this thing. Like maybe this was my divine moment to really go for it and see what I can create. I always remember, working and being like, man, if I had more time to do this, man, if I had more time to do this, well, I got
Yep.
the time now. So I got to figure something out, or, if another opportunity pops up, I'll definitely consider. But, I'd love to keep having fun, keep running races, keep hanging out with my friends, keep making cool stuff. I hope there's a kid that my main goal, I hope there's a kid that gets one of my free vintage pieces, and when he turns 40 or 50, and his or her kids are looking at stuff online and they're like, look at this, I swear my dad had this hat, when he was a kid. Boom. I tell all the kids all the time when I see them at the events, I'm like, you're gonna thank me in like 30 years. I'm telling you, you're gonna thank me because everything is just a big circle, and then boom,
Yep.
how some, some resurgence, like some kid finds a hat, or that kid turns into freaking, Taylor Swift, or Patrick Mahomes, or
Yep.
Aaron Judge just turns into this thing, and it's like, yeah, my dad had this hat, and then like I said, I'm a cool old guy at this point. Just like,
That's
I
awesome.
have all the archive of stuff, and it's just like, I just want people to have that feeling when they find it. It's like, wow, this treasure has been
Yep.
sitting in my house, and my parents got it at a minor league baseball game 40
Yep.
years ago, and it still holds up great. And being able to have that, and having fun, and like you said, taking chances, and I've gotten over my phase of blowing the budget, because I can't do that anymore. But
Yep.
growing the
You
team, and
realize the finances are very important.
yeah, yeah,
At some
yeah.
point in time, you definitely, as a business owner, that transition takes place where you're like, I don't think I need the newest Sony camera anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I've been more multi-purpose now. So I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe if I do get the camera, maybe I could just, take it with me when I go places and stuff, or being able to still staying with the budget too. Like, you got to
Yep.
advertise, you got to make the product, you got to tell stories. And I guess
Yep.
kind of a last thing, if I talk for the next hour and a half unsolicited, um, always just make sure that everything that you do is you're still having fun with it, and always make sure that you're doing it, and you have to keep doing it, because a lot of people, that they just never start, taking that
Yep.
first step and kind of just going. You'll get there if you keep the persistence. And I tell people,
That's it.
go watch the pilot episode of your favorite show. It probably sucked,
Yep.
but it could turn into something great. Like, a lot of people have seen the
Yep.
pilot episode of The Simpsons. I think Bart had like four things on his head, and the animation was terrible. Now it's like the music parts with this stuff now.
Yep.
You just got to start, and keep it going, and work lean. If you can elevate the revenue and stuff, kind of expand out slightly. I try to put everything back in the business, and go from there. Just keep having
Yeah.
fun. Like I said, here we are,
I think it's
making
great,
fun
great
stuff.
advice.
Yeah,
The
I
key
hope I
is
hope someone
just
finds it
start.
great.
Yeah, and the key to it is to start. I mean, I think if you have that fantastic idea, or you have that thing that in your core, that brainchild, is the key to is to starting. And
Yeah,
there's a bunch of different ways to start, but it's the keys to start, and then the consistency and persistent, that is key, because some days it's not easy, but
yeah.
um,
It's there's definitely ups and downs. Like,
for sure.
there's days I'm like, whew, this is nothing. And there's days I'm like, damn, I miss my job. Like, excuse my language, but it's like, oh,
Yep.
geez, it's been like 2 weeks. I haven't sold one thing. It's like, it's so
Yep.
up and down. It's like, man, I sold a lot, still haven't sold. Holy crap, it's the
Yep.
Baltimore Orioles. Oh, didn't sell nothing. I sold too much. I need more stuff. We need more money. It's just like, you have to be on the ride. It's like building a plane, and you're flying it too, and learning how to fly a plane at the same time. But as
It's a
long as you can
great
get that,
analogy.
yeah, it's like, then it's just so much, and then but it's so
Yep.
fun at the same time. It's like, you kind of have to
Yep.
be a little bit crazy to do this. It's like, you
Definitely.
know,
There's some craziness about it.
yeah,
There's
there's
some
no
craziness.
parlay on this stuff. Like, you can't
No,
cash out midway. You
no.
kind of have to
My
go in and do it.
my dad was or it was he's retired now, a small business owner, 40 years.
Oh
He was
man,
just,
that's
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, and he helped support my family. I mean, he was a single entrepreneur, in his office by himself. And when I started this company, he said, "Well, Chris, if it was easy, everybody would do it." And
Yeah.
like, that just rings to me every time I have one of those days. I'm like, what am I doing? This headache is just persistent, not going away. I just go back to that line. If it was easy, everybody would do it. And that goes back to we all have to be a little crazy to do this.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's like the great Phil Knight said, you gotta be a shoe dog, and somebody somebody has to be able to get that purple Porsche that he wanted. You know, he had to be the guy,
Yep.
Bill Bowerman, and make the handshake and make a shoe based on a waffle. But like,
Yep.
you just got to go and
Yeah.
don't look
And it's
back.
worth it. It's
Yeah,
worth it. It's definitely worth
it's
it.
and here we are talking
Yep.
ecom and helping people and spreading the word. And I'm thankful for you for your platform, being able to help people and doing that. And hopefully I brought you some value today.
Absolutely. As always, a great conversation, Terrance. Thank you very much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it, man. The story's fantastic. The mission, the values, trying to help the community thing is just, it's awesome because a lot of times ecom brands, there's just no face. It's just you're selling a product to a person. Whereas how you've integrated the community into it and just your face, that's really awesome. It's
Yeah,
inspiring, and I
I,
appreciate you coming on the show today.
thank you. I appreciate it. And like I said, if anybody wants to reach out or, I'm happy
Yeah,
to
where can
chat.
people find you?
Just D17 Terrance on all platforms and just D17 Clothing on all platforms. My DMs are open. If you want to talk about the episode, cool. If you want to talk about sneakers, cool. I don't care. I just like talking to people.
Love it.
So, or come watch me
And
stream.
definitely go check out D17clothing.com. If you're a runner, pick up some gear or
Yeah,
pickleball.
or
Play pickleball. We'll
pickleball.
have to catch up on pickleball later.
Heck yeah, come play with your boy. I don't even know the rules. I just like hearing the dink noise. But like, I just feel like I'm freaking Roger Federer every time. It's like it's not that. But you never
I
know.
love it. That's awesome. Terrance, thank you very much for coming on the show and another great episode.
Thank you. Appreciate it.